Hey friends, it's Gina. Welcome to the Rebookery channel. I'm going to do a process video today on how I set up my October junk planner spread in my latest journal that I'm working in. And so I actually filmed this a while ago, and I just slipped outside this morning to do this voiceover. I always like to do voiceovers outside because it just seems really quiet, and I kind of live off in the country, so you might hear cows or birds in the background. But so I'm going to have to remember what I did as I go through this video. So I started off with my journal that I made in Finding Your Style too. And I needed to put in October because my actual junk planner was already filled. And so I found a couple of pages that I had open, and I thought, okay, this is going to be perfect. Why have I not thought of this before? I'm going to put my junk planner pages in my actual journal from here on out. I'm going to try it and see how it works. So what I did was I just took a couple of blank pages. I think they already had gesso on them or some sort of white paint, and I decided that I was going to go dark on this. So I took some black paint, some purple paint, and some blue, and I think the blue actually had like sparkles or something in it, and I just covered the page with that paint. I took a blank piece of paper and just put it over top of the wet paint and pulled it off, and it just kind of pulled off the excess paint, and then it gave it a little bit of texture, because I wanted it to be imperfect. I don't want my paint to be on the page in a nice, perfect, even layer, because if you know me, you know that perfection is way overrated, and I never achieve it. So I always try to go the opposite. And then I took this painted piece of paper that had this bright yellow paint on it, and just decided I'm going to hand cut my letters. Hand cutting my letters, I know this seems weird, but it is very quick for me. In fact, it's quicker for me to hand cut letters than it is to search through packages of like letter stickers and things like that. And it's probably just because I've done it for so long, and practice always makes perfect. So if you're a person that wants to get into hand cutting letters, yeah, try it. The more you do it, the faster and easier it will become. I, again, do not worry about perfection, so I'm okay if my letters are wonky, and that's probably why I can go through it so quickly. So I went ahead and cut out my letters, and I glued those on. And then I also kind of had to go back and look at my last junk planner to see how to set up the dates and stuff. So I'm using a silver Sharpie here and just kind of making my grid. This is a very loose grid. I don't worry about, my lines being perfectly straight. I don't worry about the columns or the rows being perfectly equal. And I'm okay with that, because to me, that's not important. However, if it is important to you, you would obviously want to take a ruler and probably measure it out and stuff like that. But I just don't worry about that. So one of the things that I do remember when I made this spread is that I made the dates. I put the dates on here incorrectly. And then when I realized it, I had to go back and fix them. And that's a great lesson. It does not have to be right. You can make mistakes. That's what your journal is all about. It's making mistakes and then taking those mistakes and fixing them. And so you will see, I'm going to go through with this paint pen that is just ridiculous. It does not work very well, but I love it because I love the color, but it's kind of dried up. And I put the dates on. Two things. One, that paint pen not working drives me nuts. The other thing is I'm going to realize that my dates are off by like one day. So no big deal. I will show you as we go through this. I'll show you how I correct that mistake. So now I'm just kind of playing around and testing out what pens and markers are going to work on this dark background. And this was really fun because these are pens or markers that I typically use on a light colored background. And so seeing them on this black is kind of awesome to see what they're going to do. And so some of them worked and some of them did not. And the thing I found was I had to let the ink or the paint that was in the pen, I had to let that dry to see what the full effect was going to be. So this is going to be fun this month using this dark background, because everything I put on here, I'm going to have to think oppositely, if that's a word. I'm going to have to think oppositely, because I'm going to have to think, ooh, this is going to be an ink that is going to have to work, or an image that's going to have to work on a dark background. And I don't typically think that way, because usually my calendar spreads are on white backgrounds or light backgrounds, and then I'm adding color to it. So I'm just finding scraps that I've got laying around. This is one of those times where I'm truly in the zone, and I'm just using whatever is laying on my desk, things I want to hurry up and use up. And this is some tissue paper I had left over, and I thought, well, we'll just put that on there and see what it does. And so this is just going to be a lesson in layers. I'm going to add things. I put my paint. I'm going to add, paper and stuff. I'm going to go back and put more paint. I'm going to just work in these layers and try to make everything seem like it blends together. So you'll see, like right here, I'm kind of using a paintbrush just to make sure that my tissue paper is down. I'm drying things a lot. If you're working in layers, it's really important to dry as you go through. And so I'm trying to cut most of that out, but looks like I didn't get this one cut out. Sorry. And then once I have that, I need to make that blend in. So I'm going to add some more paint, and then just keep building up. It's not that I want to cover up what I just did. It's that I want to make it seem like it's supposed to be there. It's not an afterthought. And essentially I'm just trying to get it to blend in, and the whole background, the whole spread become one. And this is a process that you just kind of learn the more you do it. It's not easy. At least it's not easy for me. Learning how to blend my layers and stuff like that is just something that I've had to do and learn and figure out as I've been doing journaling and art. And and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So like right here, I'm not in love with that, because you can see that blue in the upper right hand corner. See how it really sticks out? And so I'm not loving that, because I want it to blend in. So that's why I'm kind of going over it with this black paint and just kind of making it seem as though it's all one thing. And then I want my lines to pop, because those are important. So I'm going to go back over those lines again with my silver Sharpie. Just be careful when you're working with paint and Sharpies. I have ruined so many Sharpies because the tip will get loaded with wet paint, and it will just suck the life out of that marker, literally. So just be very careful. Make sure your paint is always dry. One thing that I typically do is I will take my Sharpie and just kind of write on like a matte piece of paper as I'm working, just to kind of get that extra paint off of the tip there. So I'm writing my dates and stuff on, or my days and stuff on. I'm using that, I think it was the Uniball Signo white pen, which I've used before. It's a really good pen, but it is kind of finicky. And then I'm also using just some Jelly Roll, Sakura Jelly Roll pens. And here's where I realized that my dates were off. No worries, because the deal was, I liked this paint pen much better. It was this green paint pen. I got this I think I got this pack of paint pens, metallic paint pens, at a Barnes & Noble maybe a couple summers ago. And they're not my favorite because they don't work really well. They will bleed all over, like paint will just come out in blobs, or I can't get it to work at all. But this green one seems to work, and it's perfect for the dates. So now I'm liking that. I like the dates a lot better. So it was actually a happy accident. I was glad that I messed up. Now I'm able to go in and write some things down that I know is coming up this month. And I'm just using that white pen again. And now I want to go and I want to add just some fun Halloween things. So this is, if I think, yeah, okay. So this is a little, it's like a Hallmark gift book. It was from the 1980s, I believe. I used it on another spread that I don't think I've done the video for yet. It will be the next process video I do. But it was like a coloring book, and you would get it at a Hallmark store. And so I'm just taking the image that somebody had already colored, and I'm cutting that out and sticking it down at the bottom because I just think it's too cute. And I just wanted to incorporate some fun Halloween things. My kids are older, so Halloween is not a big deal for us. And so, yeah, I just kind of, while I love Halloween and I think it's cool, it's not like it was when my kids were younger, but I can still have fun by putting some cool things and stuff in my journal. On the left-hand side, you can see I put that big yellow-orange circle in the center. No surprise here. That is the moon. And so I just used, again, some of that yellow paper that paper that had yellow paint on it. And I cut it out into a circle and took it over to my machine and stitched it. And I put it on the date that is going to have a full moon. And then up in, I think I'm writing on the box right now, the little square right now. I took one of my total solar eclipse stamps from a few years ago when the post office had those, and I still have a few of them. And I put that up on the day that I know there's going to be a new moon in October. So even though I haven't seen those moons, I'm going to go ahead and put them in my journal just because, one, I want to, and two, October's weather is kind of finicky, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to catch those moons because usually we have a lot of clouds and storms and stuff like that. So I'm going to just go ahead and document them, even though I haven't seen them. Just adding some fun stuff here, more images from that little Hallmark coloring book. I think I'm going to go to my sticker stash here in just a second and pull out some super fun old stickers, and they don't have a lot of stick on them, so I'm going to have to use glue stick and my tape runner to get those guys to stick. Another thing when you're working with like a painted background, so this one in particular, I used acrylic paint. And so acrylic it's a polymer. It's a form of, think of it as like it's a form of plastic, a form of rubber. It's not going to be very porous. So when you go to stick stuff on it, you've got to think about what your adhesive is going to be. Glue sticks typically won't stick very well on them because that acrylic, depending on like what the finish is going to be, may have more of like a plastic finish, and it's just not going to be able to seep into any of the little, like if there's any little holes or anything in it. I know I'm getting real sciencey, sorry. So I typically use on acrylic paint, especially if it's like a satin or a glossy finish, I will typically use like my tape runner. If it's something like a watercolor paint, something that's more matte, something that's way more porous, I'm going to use more of a wet glue, like a glue stick or my bottle of glue. So stickers, typically, depending on which ones I'm going to use, they might have more of like that plasticky type of surface. Unless it's like a paper-backed sticker, which that would be more porous. So you just kind of have to play around with it. Try to stick a sticker down or a label down with a glue stick, see if it works. If it pops off in a day or two, you're going to need to use something more like a tape runner, things like that. So, and again, this is just one of those things that you just kind of figure out along the way. You figure out what adhesives work best. Oh, there you go. There's a bird. What adhesives work best with your backgrounds and things like that. And you don't need to know the science behind it. You just are like, dude, that didn't stick. I need to go and try something else. So I'm finishing up with these stickers here, and now I'm ready to just use this as I go throughout the month. So guys, thanks for hanging out with me this morning. I feel like I talked a lot. I hope you guys are healthy. I hope you guys are happy. And I hope you do something creative today. I hope your October is going awesome. home. And I do have another process video that I will do the voiceover and hopefully get out to you guys within the next week. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Bye.